Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little big guy right here. This is the Kizer Collar pocket knife. First off, a disclaimer. Kizer Knives actually reached out to me a few months back and offered to send me some product to check out. I sent them my form letter saying I'm going to give the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly. That's all on the table, and I could call it junk, and you know what? They still sent the products. And they did one round of that, and, even after seeing my less than stellar review of a knife that they sent in the last round, they sent another round, and this was among them. So this has been provided by Kizer. I've done my best to try and keep that from influencing my opinions too much in the positive or the negative direction. And, so anyways, keep that in mind. But let's go ahead and jump into it here. Let's do a size comparison on your collar here. First off, for tradition's sake, another knife with a random hole in it, the Spyderco Delica. Let's see here, Ontario Rat number 2. That's the one. Someday I'll get those right. And here's the number 2. And let's see here, Spyderco PM2, as I destroy just everything on my table. PM2, so you can see this is actually a substantially large knife here. Another substantial knife would be the ZT452CF. It's a little less substantial than that. This is a similar knife from Kizer, the Kizer Guru, which was also sent to me by the Kizer, as well as, sure, it's on my table, the T1, the third Kizer here. So, there you go. Let's go on ahead. Oh, and then I also should say that this is a production version of the collar custom knife by Scot Matsuoka, the designer here. And so, that's of interest. So let's go on ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of the collar. So on the good side, first off, I love the maker's mark here. You can see that it spells out SCOT. That took me longer than it should have to notice. And it's shaped like a duck. This guy must be on quack, huh? Okay, that was way funnier than you thought it was. But it's called that, or it's shaped like a duck because Scot Matsuoka, the designer, is from an island in Hawaii that has an endangered duck, the Koloa duck, and he's a fan of ducks, and I'm a fan of ducks, so you know what, it works out. So I like very much that this knife has a duck on it. Completely beside the point, but it brings me joy. Nice maker's mark. Next thing, I like the idea of this knife as well in general. This is a great thing for Kizer to be doing. Authorized production versions of custom knives from lesser-known makers. I didn't know who Matsuoka was before this knife arrived on my table. I did a bunch of research, like, wow, he's got some really cool stuff. But this is a great way for Kizer to get brand new designs because it's easy to stagnate with, a bunch of derivative stuff, while also getting these makers some exposure. I wouldn't have seen this guy prior to knowing this, and so, but this impressed me, so I'm like, okay, I should look this guy up. So there you go. On the knife itself, the fit and finish on this guy is very nice for the most part. We'll talk about a couple of little issues, but for instance, the back spacer is nicely laid in there. There's not a whole lot of, jumps in there. Everything is nicely chamfered. There's no real crazy hot spots or anything. This is just overall a very nicely made knife. It's not like intricate or anything, but you know what? It's done well, so that's good. One thing that is kind of intricate and very nice is the etch on the logo here. It's not just like printing on there, but this is actually really recessed in there. And it offers this great contrast, a nice tactile feel. I like that etch very, very much. Same thing on the other side there. So that's good. The speed holes on the scale bring me a little bit of joy. They make the knife a little lighter and they look different. They add some visual interest to a knife that could otherwise be a formless gray mass. Not everyone likes speed holes, but I don't mind them, so there you go. The construction on this guy is pretty simple for easy maintenance. You unscrew this, unscrew this, unscrew this, and you can see the video. But it's simple to the point of being boring, and that's a beautiful thing in a tool. So there you go. The ergonomics on this guy are very nice. I mean, you can tell that this design has a lot of ergonomic thinking at heart because you've got, a nice little finger, and it's not going anywhere in your hand, partly due to the speed holes, partly due to the clip here, and partly due to the contouring. But even in my smaller hands, this fits nicely, and you can choke up a little bit and use this section as a finger choil if you want to. So that's nice too. But overall, ergonomically speaking, this is pretty solid in the hand. It's not, incredible. I bet it'd probably be better if I had bigger hands. It's a big knife, but still, I like it. So that's nice. And then, I gotta say, the design on the whole is pretty attractive to me. It's not like, oh my God, beach over the head, unique, crazy, different, but the more I've carried it, the more I've appreciated the design on this guy. It's subtle, but it works nicely. And then finally, I guess, I could have put this under simple construction, but the knife is pretty solid feeling. Overall, I have no concern that this knife is going to fail, that I'm going to hurt this knife in any substantial way. There's no play on any directions. It locks up very tightly. I like it. About 50% lockup here. It is a well-made, solid knife. And so, to me, all of that is the good. The solidity of it, the ergonomics, the design is very nice. The holes in the scale, the nice details like the etch and fit and finish overall. And the fact that this is a custom knife by Kizer, which is a beautiful thing, and I love, love, love the freaking duck maker's mark. Well done there, Scott. Let's talk about what's great here. So to me, what's great about this knife is 100% the blade. This is a big knife. Don't make any mistake about that. The blade here is, like 3.75 inches. It's a serious blade. And it's made out of a serious steel, S35VN, but it has a very nice sort of shape to it. It's an interesting curve. I don't know if it's technically a recurve or not. I mean, it does kind of curl back a little bit, but it doesn't do the thing where it dips down again that makes them odd to sharpen. It's not all that concave, and so this would be pretty easy to maintain on a regular guided sharpening system, but it still has a little bit of drama to it. It's a little bit of fun to it. It's almost a little bit kookery-ish with that little bit of curve out toward the front there. I don't know, but whatever it is, I like it. More importantly, though, in addition to offering a finger choil option, which is a nice thing, it is very nicely ground to slice. It's got a little bit of a hollow grind in here. The blade stock itself isn't all that thick. For a knife this big, you're looking at blade stock that is thinner than on your PM2, for instance. And that's pretty impressive. And being as wide as the blade is, this is a pretty decent slicer. You can break down cardboard with this, no problem. And so this is a large knife that actually cuts, and I appreciate that very much in this modern world. So for me, what's great about this knife is this blade. This is a really compelling blade, and it's a pretty damn good functional tool if you're looking for something that actually cuts things rather than, well, prise things open. So there you go. Let's talk about the bad. So on the bad side, first something that's kind of interesting to me. I've always assumed that when a company sends me gear directly, that they are going to cherry pick their gear. They're going to go through and they're going to find the very best Kizer collar that has ever been made, and they're going to send it my way. And that's... that would make a lot of sense. I am a well-known picky person who will be doing reviews for many people, but I have evidence against that in this knife, in that this knife particularly is not well-scented, and the detent is pretty soft on it. And so it's kind of making me feel like maybe they're, I don't know, maybe they don't care. Maybe they're just running into the supply closet, grabbing one off the shelf, throwing it in a box. It's brave at some level, but it's interesting and it's different. Weird little observation. Anyways, moving on to the knife itself. The price on this guy is honestly right on the upper edge of what I consider okay here. You've got serious competition at $220, which is the street price of this knife. I mean, you're above the ZT452, which has a much better action in pretty much every way. I don't know. It's a lot of titanium. It's a lot of S35. I'm sympathetic to that, but the price doesn't really make me happy. So, moving along. Next thing, the Flippin Tab on this guy desperately needs a little bit of texturing. Doesn't need much, but something like they've got on the Guru here, where there's just a little bit there to keep your finger from sliding off the back of it. I appreciate a more rounded Flippin Tab, but in these situations where it's too round, it's very easy, especially with damp fingers, to slide off rather than triggering the Flippin Tab. So there you go. Next thing, I don't necessarily love how they've handled this little area here. They could have done a sharpening choil, which would have been in some ways ideal. They could have done this all the way back to the plunge grind, or they could have done this approach. And what I think they did here is they favored the finger choil. Because it is true, if I'm using this as a finger choil, I don't want this part sharpened. But still, I don't know that I love the aesthetics of having the blade edge just abruptly stop right there in the middle of the knife. I don't know. The finger choil thing is nice, I guess, but it's a little weird the rest of the time. So, whatever, not in love there. We'll just leave it at that. Next thing I'm not in love with is the texturing on the titanium. It seems like it is a different texture on both sides. This is either much more finely blasted, machined, or something like that. This shows snail trails, little areas of contact, very, very readily. I mean, I've maybe carried this for 5 or 6 days, and you can see that already it's gotten a fair bit of snail trailing. This was factory fresh when I got it. And then similarly, this side is a much more harsh bead blast, but it still shows these kinds of snail trails. I don't love this texture, especially when Kizer is capable of doing other textures like this one, which I'd like a great deal more. I mean, sure, it can show a little wear here and there, but I don't know. The blasted thing doesn't really do it for me so much. Moving on here. The clip on this guy is actually a copy of the custom, but it is a little weird in that it expects the knife to hang like this in your pocket. That's certainly it helps to keep the knife back out of the way, but it's a little weird most of the time because the knife is just kind of hanging on by this very corner here. That'll cut into your pocket a little bit. Not a huge deal, though. Something that is a huge deal is that smoothness of this knife is not very high. I mean, it's fine, it's okay, but and it'll probably wear in. I will say that it has been smoothing out as I've used this guy a lot more. Maybe in a few months this is going to be a beast, but as it stands, I'm not so impressed. I mean, it can fall shut if you give it a little bit of extra help, but it doesn't bring me joy there. Similarly, the centering is not quite there, which is not quite good. And then finally, the detent on this guy is soft. You can open it, say, 95% of the time, but I just don't love it. So, you know, I feel like Kizer can do a better detent. In fact, they did on this little Guru guy, same box, but they just didn't here, and that's disappointing. So to me, that's the bad. The detent isn't great. It's not super smooth. It's not super scented. The clip is a little weird. I don't love the titanium texturing here. I don't love their choice to only partially sharpen the blade. The Flippin Tab needs some texturing. The price is right on the edge. And I guess I'm not getting cherry-picked samples after all, which is either good or bad. I'm not quite sure. But anyways, let's move on to the ugly. So there are two ugly things here. First off, Kizer's warranty explicitly prevents disassembly. It is a very easy disassembly to do, and I will note that the soft screw issues have gotten a lot better, at least than the ones I've gotten lately. I haven't had as much trouble with their screws stripping out, but it's still ugly that they explicitly tell you in the warranty you can't take the knife apart. Knives on bearings need to be maintained. So why you stop me from doing that, Kizer? I'm going to call that ugly every damn day until you change it. The other ugly thing about this knife is the weight. This is a 6.27-ounce knife. This is not lightweight. There is no interior milling. There are no speed holes on the backside. This is really, really, really heavy. And unfortunately, the balance is also pretty far back on this knife. You know, the balance point here is someplace in this region, which is way far back. I mean, it's got this big, thick titanium backspacer, this big Mix-a-Lot size butt on the back of it here. I mean, it is a big knife. It's ergonomic and whatnot, but yeah. So it does need some serious interior milling to help both the balance and the weight overall, because this is a little bit much in terms of weight. I mean, compare it to the ZT452 here, and I'm suddenly in grams. Okay, there we go. 4.3 ounces. Sorry, I had a moment of measurement sanity there. But anyways, you know, this is 2 ounces less for more blade. I don't know. I don't like that. So those are the ugly things. This is really heavy with a balance that's a little too far back, and the warranty on it prevents the disassembly. So let's go on ahead and jump into your final conclusions here. Look, final conclusions. This is a nice knife that I like in a lot of ways, but it's clearly fallen pretty short of gem. It is still, to my taste, a little bit big, but more importantly, the balance is way off, and it is seriously heavy. That can't be overstated. And unfortunately, the entire knife feels like it was a little bit underdone, like they needed to go the extra mile and they didn't. You know, going from the little things like the jimping on the Flippin Tab would have been a very nice thing, but the action feels underdone here. And the smoothness is underdone. Even the lack of internal milling is really what shot this knife in the foot more than anything else. I understand that putting out this much S35VN in titanium for this price point point will make some degree of compromise, but I feel like they needed to go further with this guy. And so as a result, if you're purely after value, this is not going to be a great choice for you. You can do way better with like the ZT452 or the Wii 617, sorts of things like that. Those deliver a lot more knife for a lot less price. But all of that said, even with the fact that it's a little bit underdone, I think there's still the skeleton of a very nice knife here. It's a knife that I like more than I thought I would when I first picked it up. In fact, when I first took this out of the package, it was like, why the heck? What is this? Why do I care? It just seemed huge and crazy to me. But as I carried it more, and partly as it smoothed out with carry, that helped too. But as I carried, and more importantly, as I used it, as I cut with it, I came to appreciate very much the blade on this guy. Because I like the shape of it. It's kind of crazy, a little fun. The steel is great. And it is slicey enough that it is a big knife that can still cut things. And so I very, very much do appreciate that much. And that does make this knife stand out from the pack a little bit for me. So I really wish that they had done this a little bit better, that they'd done it up a little bigger. Had they really rocked this knife at $250, put that extra 30 towards some interior milling or something like that, I think it would have been really super compelling. But as it is, you really do have to be aware of the issues here. The missing kind of extras there, the okay action in the weight, and you have to realize this isn't God's gift of value. But that said, if you are after a very big and relatively slicey sort of knife, and you like the design of this guy, I think this guy could still be calling your name. See, Carla? Anyways, I hope this has been interesting to you and that you have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.